Welcome to the Everyday Awesome Project, where we bring you inspirational stories and game-changing strategies to live your most awesome life. Hey, superstars, welcome back. Polly here, and I am delighted to be joined today by a dear friend of mine. Hello, Nisse.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome, everyone. This is Nisse Noble, and I want to do a little intro. I'll give the personal side, and then I'll give maybe your sort of pseudo-professional side, because you're not just a dear friend of mine. Like you're like known out in the world, like big time. So we have an influencer in the house, y'all. So Nissa, we've known each other maybe like 10. Oh, let me just introduce the topic. Sorry, I'll just say that as well. So today we're going to be talking about navigating complicated mother-daughter relationships. And this is my bestie in terms of going to someone when I got hairballs in my relationship with my mom, and Nissa and I, like, we relate on this. So well, maybe like a month ago, I was like, well, you were giving me some great coaching and advice, and I said, we got to have you on. And so Nissa is just so wonderful in terms of being, so we've known each other probably 10 years, and
At least.
at least, yeah. Yeah, we've been in a mastermind group. We started as Lean In, and now it's just women who love on each other, and we play and we hang out and we support each other, and it's just a space of unconditional love and awesomeness. And I'm just really great to call you one of my best friends. So
I feel very grateful to have you, Polly.
hmm, so that's our personal relationship. And this beauty, like when I think of one of the most creative and talented people I personally know in the world, yeah, it's you. Like hands down, like Nissa can generate beauty and creativity, and her mind is just gorgeous. She created, so she's on her fourth like startup, like she's a serial entrepreneur, has done everything from e-commerce and other things I don't even know about. But like your most recent adventures are into, supplementation, supplements, right? Mushroom supplements. You can talk about that if you'd like. And then the fun thing I think is out of your relationship with your mom, you created something called Planet Gale, which is an Instagram, TikTok, like that's your channel, that's your voice, that's your creative outlet with you and your mom. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that. And it's not just, oh yeah, there's just this channel there. Like girl was on like, Good Morning America online, and CBS interviewed her and her mom multiple times. So like not just, like, oh, futzing around, like you were creating a buzz. So tell me a little bit about Planet Gale and like where this started.
Yeah, I would love to. And first of all, thanks for having me on, Polly. I
Yeah.
feel, and for the warm fuzzies, that feels good. Yeah, I am on to my fourth founder adventure now. So it's a company. It's a supplement company called Third Nature. And I founded that after decades of burnout.
Mm.
And the goal is to help passionate people find their third nature, which we define as the state of flow when you're doing your thing.
Mm.
So uh, that's one project. The other project that's very near and dear to my heart is Planet Gale. So, in terms of complicated mother-daughter relationships, that community was born out of my desire to learn how to love my mom.
Mm.
And I started it on TikTok, just creating videos as a way to see my mom differently, to
Mm.
process who she is without,
Yeah.
all of the all of my past experience with her.
Mm.
And it went absolutely viral. There's
Yeah.
over 700,000 Galians now, which is what we
Mm.
call them. They
Mm.
are some of the kindest, weirdest, most lovable people
Mm.
in the world.
So great.
It's a really amazing community. And yes, it was the story was picked up by CBS News multiple times, Good Morning America Online, AARP.
Yeah.
So it definitely resonated. And I
Mm.
think at the core of that is what we're talking about today, which is complicated mother-daughter relationships, complicated parent-child relationships.
Mm.
So I think it's a topic that a lot of people can relate to.
And I just want to insert here for if you haven't, been to Planet Gale before, just like a little background from my, outside in perspective. And I'm happy if you want to share more, but really we want to go into the meat of like this dynamic. And what I saw you doing with your mom is, You had lost your dad, a few years before that, and then your mom was, becoming older, and then you were starting to need to take care of her more, right? Just like, my mom, and we've had conversations around that, when we get this generation that your parents age, and then you're having way more interactions with your mom, and it's one thing when your mom's like, okay, see ya, kind of thing, and then you're either full-time caretaking or part-time caretaking or the responsible family member because you have brothers and sisters, it's like, well, it's on you, right? And you had to relocate her and all these things, right? And you really dove in and got to know your mom more during those years too, I mean, well, you couldn't help it. I mean, like, you're spending more time with her and stuff, but she had this, I wouldn't call it unique, but passionate, because some people, you've got a lot of Galians that are like this, I think.
Hmm.
She was very unusual, kind of like a flower child, I would say, a little bit, kind of came out of that
Oh, not a
generation.
little bit. She's a lot. She was weird
Full
and
on.
full on weird. And that is something that is a word that I embraced, that my mom embraced. And it's actually a fun topic on Planet Gale because there's a lot of people that get angry that I call my mom weird.
Mm,
And we see weird as a good thing on Planet Gale. Like
yeah.
it is you being authentic, it's you being different, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not weird isn't a bad word.
Mhm.
So I think I think calling my mom weird is accurate.
Okay, so she was weird, and this level of, we'll call it a generous streak or something. Like, she had this daily habit or routine of gifting. I don't know
Mhm.
how you call it on Planet Gale, but that's right.
We call it aggressive generosity.
Okay, aggressive generosity. It's got its own language. I'll put that in the dictionary, right?
Yeah.
What does that
It's
mean?
aggressive because she won't take no for an answer. So you are going to get whatever she wants to give you, whether you want it or not.
You
It is
wanna-
aggressive.
Yeah.
She would run across the street to fill somebody's parking meter. She would, go into the post office every day and give them muffins, whether they wanted the muffins or not. Guess what? If you want a muffin, you're going to get 12 muffins. And there is,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just a driving passion
Yeah.
of hers.
Yeah.
Or what?
So that, I think, is a little bit of where the story got picked up, and more. I mean, you're such a good storyteller. I mean,
Thank you.
you helped paint the story of who your mom was. Like, I think part of that was your journey of seeing it through new lenses, and then you were able to create that story and curate it in a way that was like, how, like, you could have empathy and love and stop being, like, I've at times still feel like the victim of, the relationship and the complicatedness or whatever, but you flip that and you're like, wow, there's a good human here, right? And what's that
Yeah,
story, right?
right. 100%. I mean, that tool was what I used. And I wouldn't say it was that it created empathy or that it
Hmm.
created um, tolerance or however you want to describe it. I would say that it allowed me to embrace those feelings because I think when we have complex relationships with parents,
Yeah.
it's not it's not that we don't feel those things. It's not that we don't love them. It's not that we don't have empathy for them. It's that the pain overrides
Mm.
it and we can't
Right.
access it.
Right.
And so how do we find a place where feeling empathy for them, feeling love for them also feels safe to ourselves? And
Dude.
for me, it was about creating a different vantage point for my mom.
Yeah.
And I did that through creating videos and seeing it as a movie or a TV show.
Mm.
Because I think
Mm.
when we make
Yeah.
that change in our viewpoint about it, then we remove ourselves from it. We can see
The
mom,
drama, we can be in the drama, or
yeah, we can see that, mom has main character energy all on her own, right? And sometimes she plays a part in our story and sometimes we play a part in hers, but maybe it's my artistic nature, but I do see things as movies. I see them as stories and TV shows, and so for me, it was an easy way to
Mm,
flip the script a little bit so that I
mm,
could see it differently.
Well, I just want to say that. and I would watch, through the TikToks and videos and stuff, like how you're telling your mom and stuff, and just our relationship, you and I, how helpful you were to me. And I think we helped each other both directions at times, just a sounding board. And a lot of what I want to do in this conversation is just have a conversation about this. I would told you, before we went on air, how, I had an eating disorder, a food addiction for 20 years. And when I walked into a room where other people were talking about something that was so shameful and hidden for me, and this topic actually feels like that for me too, and it's like, let's talk about this, like you and I are not in the Mom of the Year award winning mom category. We didn't hit that lottery or whatever you want to call it. It's like we, your mom's your mom and my mom was my mom, and they had some similarities, right? And so we could have someone to talk to about this that understood. And it's like, what do you do? And so let's talk about some of the things that you and I have commonly like hit upon, and maybe like some of our, shared experience of like what it was like growing up with a mom like this, both as a child and then as a plenty modern, adult. Like, it was different. One of the things that, as I dug into this, I'm preparing for our call, is like you and I would both say that at some age, the role flipped and like you became the mom and she became the child, right? But do you remember when that was, or would you agree with that? Like,
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember from a very young age, my mom would often say, "Let's bring this along so that we have an adult." I was maybe 8.
Oh, jeez.
So very early,
Wow.
very early.
Yeah. So you were already like demonstrating that, and right, and like what child gets born and knows that, right? No, we adapt, right? Like we see something. And so there's a phrase out there, and I just want to like put it into the conversation. It's called parentification. And it's when the child becomes more like the caretaker in the relationship, right? Whether that's caretaking at an older age, and you and I would say it was like more caretaking. Like my mom was alcoholic. She wasn't like a fall down drunk at home or something. I had to put her into bed. But, just looking after myself, right, was one thing. And I'm guessing you had some of that, and maybe there was some emotional caretaking for that person, right? And maybe practically, like doing your shopping or putting yourself on the school bus or whatever. Was that like how it was for you? And like you said, going along with them to make sure they didn't get in trouble or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I remember packing my own lunches for kindergarten. I remember, I moved out at 15, very much on my own all the time. I would describe my childhood as us kids were kind of like outside cats. We had food and you could come in and you could like
Yeah.
have your needs cared for, but there just wasn't much in the way of emotional support or my
Yeah.
parents were around, but they weren't emotionally available.
Exactly. It's the thing. It's like we weren't abandoned. It wasn't like, oh, they were never. Yeah, I mean, my mom worked a lot, so like she wasn't there a lot, but like we weren't not like there was a roof over our head. There weren't like some of the dramatic, traumatic things that people
Right.
really point to and say like that was child abuse or something like that. And that's not what we're
Right.
saying here. It's like roof over our head, well educated. Your mom and your dad were super wicked bright. My mom,
Yeah.
quite
Very
bright.
smart.
Yeah, yeah. But the
Yeah.
emotional immaturity is where it, yeah. So now fast forward that, like, and that never changed, right? Like your dynamic with your mom, if it was like mine, like once it was that way, it was always that way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that dynamic in my relationship with my mom never changed.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is just like a hallmark. And like I said, so we're calling this like complicated mother-daughter relationships. And one of the phrases I was like looking up for this, and I don't think we would call it this, was like, toxic mom, and that throwing that word around isn't it. I think we would just want to talk about some of the things that were present, this reverse roles, if you will. I would say, and tell me if this is it. So I'm going to label a couple of them or name a couple of them, like emotionally draining or unpredictable. Yeah, yeah. Makes everything about her, or it felt like there was a lot of like the world revolves around her most times.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about guilt tripping, controlling, or manipulative? I don't know that your mom was that much.
No, I don't think she was. I mean, she was unwell and unstable, but her intention wasn't to do those things. However, in talking to some of my siblings, they did have some experiences with,
Mhm.
controlling, and which was new to me, right? Every kid has a different relationship, a different parent, even if it's the same parent.
Right, right.
Um, and so I think in certain stages she was bipolar, which I learned as an adult.
Mm.
That did manifest as that for some of my siblings, but
Mhm.
it wasn't something that I experienced with her.
It didn't. Yeah, I would vote for, and I still have it today, like the guilt tripping, like, oh, you do this for me if you like cared about me, or oh, just this
Mhm.
one time, or why aren't you, like, so I
Right.
have, I,
My mom never did that. It was
yeah,
never that,
yeah,
which I think was a unique thing. I think that to some degree is like a common thing, right? We hear about that
yeah.
moms will guilt trip you, and especially my mom being Jewish, like apparently that's like a very,
Common thread.
specialized skill in a Jewish mom. And so I think it's actually pretty impressive that she didn't do that,
Yeah, yeah, right on.
at least not
And
to me.
now, your mom always seemed from the outside, like, so kind and generous and things like that. For me, one of the things is like these interactions, I would just feel worse after, or drained, or just like, why am I talking to this person? Or like, why am I spending time with this person? What was the degree of when you're around her, how it was for you, other than like all this aggressive generosity? Was there like anything else that was more like it rubbed you wrong other than that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, my mom growing up, I was terrified of her. Um, she was terrifying. She would have these insane mood swings.
Mm,
She would scream and throw things. She was emotionally volatile. She could be emotionally abusive
mm,
in that state. So you kind of just learn to like stay away from my mom.
mm,
And those moods of hers would control the entire family, the entire
mhm,
household, the entire everything.
mhm,
And the interesting thing was that some of those dynamics started to change as she got older in the last, 5 or 6 years of her life, I guess 8 years or so, while I was caring for her. And it was weird because I remember telling my therapist, I think when I was, I don't know, in my early 20s, like, I just wish that she was evil so that I could completely hate her.
right.
Because
Yeah.
she had this amazing side of her that
Yes.
was so pure and good-hearted and generous,
Mhm,
and then she also had this horrible side, and it
mm,
was this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing,
mm.
that can be really traumatic
Yeah.
because you start to question, was it really that bad? Did I really, like, did she do that? Maybe she isn't that bad. Maybe she, and you start to feel crazy.
Yeah. You question yourself. And I'm so glad you're bringing this up. I had forgotten just until you started telling these stories about your childhood and this, like my mom, I used to call her screaming fisherwoman. I don't know where that,
Mm.
or my dad called her that. I forget. Maybe he said that. And it was like the yelling in my household, like I just sort of blank it out. Like I remember at one point saying, what was my childhood? It was fighting, not me necessarily, but my parents, right? And just the yelling that would go on, and that was largely my mom. I totally, now that you say that, and it's like, oh, it feels like so distant because I don't see her that way anymore. She just doesn't have a sparring partner, if you will.
Mhm.
But yeah, and I love that you're saying that. Like this is part of that, like uncovering something that, um, like we talk about like shining a light on it. Like I feel guilt for like, why don't I want to be around her? And then I just start processing and really trying to distinguish. It's like women who have childbirth, they have other kids because they forget how painful it was. Like they lose track of like that was really freaking painful. Don't put yourself in that situation again. But like you said, we sort of distance it from because we get enough nice interactions,
Mhm.
right? But
Well, because she feels unsafe,
yeah, yeah,
right? How can you trust someone that is that unpredictable, is that violent, even if it doesn't my mom never hit me,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the pain is still there.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the ways that I was able to find peace with it was to recognize that multiple things can be true at once.
Mm.
She
Yeah.
can be multiple people, and one doesn't necessarily negate the other, and that people do change over their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that what happened in the past didn't happen or that I don't have a right to feel the way that I do, but maybe I can make space for multiple truths.
Absolutely, absolutely. And stop kind of pointing the finger at us like, is there something wrong? Like, am I missing something here? Like why, instead of going, like one of the things that we'll move to at the end of this is like, what do you do now? And it's like, be honest with yourself. And I think that's where you saying like, oh, this is the way she is, right? And that's the way she was, and not either pretending or shrinking the painful moments,
Yeah.
and I look at it like I was thinking I was like, I don't know, trying to quantify it. I'm like 80% of the time I don't like the person she is, and 20%. And it's like, and that's just how it is right now, and it's like, do you want to spend time with somebody that 20% of the time you get the good parent, and then the other 80% of the time you just yuck,
Mhm.
and varying levels of pain come from that. So I love what you said about the safety. They're not safe to be around because you don't know who you're dealing with, right?
Right.
Ay, ay, ay.
There's
So,
another
yeah.
there's another element there for me where I realized that a lot of the things that I found triggering about my mom were also the things that I didn't like about myself.
Say more. Yeah.
So there was this realization of like, okay, maybe if I can find some love and appreciation for those parts of me that I find less desirable, maybe I can extend that to her as well. And that did help a lot. Like by me accepting those parts of myself and allowing her to be the way that she's going to be, I, I think that was a big part of a shift for her.
Hmm.
Or I don't know that my mom ever had somebody do that for her.
Hmm. And so how did that look? So you said you were loving a side of yourself that you maybe had negated or, not wanted to love on.
Yeah.
And how did that show up with her? Say that again. Like,
Well, I think what I realized is that, you know, let me think on that for a second. I
yeah.
think
Like, did you have angry sides of yourself maybe that you kind of didn't like it when
yeah,
you got
not
angry?
really like her. I mean, I think I think it was less about the scary sides of her, right? Which I recognized was illness.
Mm,
I mean, sometimes we carry things,
yeah.
and that was one of the things that she carried. And part of it was, one of the things that her and I have in common is a very tender heart and
Mm,
an idea, a desire to overdo and um to care a little bit too much, and it's a vulnerability.
mm,
So that was one thing. That was a scary side of me, but I don't think that that was the thing that I'm trying to remember, like the
mm,
crux of it.
mm,
I guess overarchingly, it would be like little things where I think she embodied a sense of authenticity and self-confidence that I didn't allow myself.
mm, yeah.
That, she could take up space in the world and she could be her full and complete self.
Yeah.
And even if that upset and hurt or bothered everybody around her.
Right.
And that made me angry. And I think it was
Mm,
because I wanted that and I didn't feel like I wasn't allowing myself to do it.
Mm.
And so that's just one example, but there were a lot of little things like that that I said, I'm over here wishing that she would be somebody that she's not. And at the same time, I'm wishing that she would appreciate me for who I am.
Mm.
So I was like, you know what? That's maybe that's unfair.
Mm.
If I want her to accept me the way that I am, and the world to accept me the way that I am. In fact, it was really more about that because I, my mom's opinion of me, in that sense, like I've always known that my mom loves me.
Mm.
It's never been in question. Her love has not always been enough,
Mm.
but I've always known that she loved me and wanted me to be me.
Mhm.
But if I'm wanting the world to accept me the way I am, then I need to accept my mom the way that she is.
And I'm hearing another way of saying it too is like you accepting you the way you are,
Right.
like and allowing yourself like she's showing you how to just show up in a room and just be fully yourself, and you're not allowing yourself, and you're like, wow, maybe I can allow myself to fully show up in a room too. So
Yeah.
it's awesome.
And by doing that, I think that that shifted the way that I showed up with her.
Mm. Mm. So good, so good.
Now, I feel in a lot of ways that I got lucky and that my mom shifted,
Mm.
right? I mean, a lot of people, my mom had dementia, she had Alzheimer's, and a lot of folks that go through that experience personality changes.
Yeah.
Um, in my mom's case, truly, I think she and I got really lucky because the shift for her resulted in her becoming more childlike and more sweet,
I was gonna say like a softening. Yeah. Yeah.
a gentle
Yeah.
side of her. She was less reactive, she was more loving,
Mm.
um, which is not the case for a lot of people.
Absolutely. No,
Um,
that's
a lot of
sundowners.
people have
Yeah.
the opposite. Now, that doesn't mean that she was great all the time. I mean, like I am. That doesn't mean that she didn't freak out or that she wasn't very difficult at times. And she sundowned for sure. But
Mm.
the incidence of her, screaming and throwing things
Mm.
was very minimal.
Okay.
Um, and even she noticed it, right? She was even
She
noticing
commented.
that she was
Oh,
less reactive. Yeah.
oh, good.
And, I think that they say that a lot of times because of the dementia, that the normal pathways in the brain get kind of clogged. So you take these new pathways.
Yeah.
I really feel like I got to see the part of my mom that was who she really is
Hmm.
underneath all of the sickness and that like who she really was at her soul.
Mm.
That's what I feel.
That's
And I feel
beautiful.
extremely lucky for that.
Mm.
And I want to very much put a big asterisk on that because I don't think that that's going to be a lot of people's experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can do all the work you want on yourself, but that does not mean that your mom go and do a damn thing.
Totally. Exactly.
Okay. So this is my experience, but I do not want to create some kind of a fantasy for anyone that is that their mom is going to change because
Yeah.
she probably will not.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And you never know. Like who knows, right? Like I'm so
Yeah.
grateful both my parents to their older, my mom is still alive, and that's one thing we'll talk about here briefly is like I'm still navigating the relationship. Your mom passed away almost a year ago, and it's
Yeah.
like navigate it. And one of the things I want people to understand is like I want to get to like some of the beautiful ways that you have been helping me continue to navigate this relationship that I'm 54 years old, that it's like I'm still growing up with this dynamic. And I forget what I said before we aired. It was like I'm learning how to parent myself and take care of myself in at this age. Like wow, it's still happening, but I think I was wrapped in a old story and paradigm. And one of the things I just want to throw in before we move on, and it doesn't sound like you had it, but I definitely in the dynamic, because I just want to speak this so that anybody else that is having this in their relationship, like yeah, that happened, is guilt conditioning, right? And so it's like this conditioned guilt that it seems it's like a little bit of that passive aggressive, like, when you start to recognize it, you're like, oh, that person's being passive aggressive, right? Like now I recognize when I'm being guilt conditioned by my mom, like you should and this, and then like what shows up is that like wanting to be a good daughter, like wanting to be a good daughter, and like not what will people think, but like I'm a good person, and like I want to treat people well and respectful and care about people. I don't want to like the amount of times I've gotten pissed off or angry or frustrated or resentful or whatever at my mom, and I'm like, I'm not this person. I'm like, whatever. I'm more evolved than this. Like I care for people. Like why does this human bring this side in me out, right? And it's like some of these dynamics look like guilt, but let's go to how do we adapt? Like what did, like one thing is like you said, when we were little, mine was like I can remember doing my own laundry. I mean, I rode like for an hour on city buses when I was like 12 to get to school across town. Like huge like undertake like parents would never let their kids do today, right? Because we adapted early. So like what are, I mean, a large one that people would say, oh, people pleasing, right? Like, oh, because you've got this emotionally unstable person, bipolar. I have said that with my mom's depression, bipolar. I'll throw in some alcoholism, whoa, oh no, like you've got this unstable uncertainty on your hands. I don't know about you, like you never know who you're coming home to. I never knew who like I'm
Uh-huh.
talking to, right? So
Right.
what are some of the things that you recognize that you adapted, like people pleasing, or what else did you see?
Hmm. I'm going to write that down, but I'm going to go back to something you said
Okay,
because I
okay.
think it was really powerful. Adapting. So I heard you say that my mom would make me really angry and that I'm not that person.
Oh,
And I
well,
would, I
so
would,
that's
but
my
I would,
old story. That's the old story, right? Like, because
what's the new
I
story?
would get upset because my mom was whatever she was doing, right?
Yeah,
So like, I need to take responsibility for. She wouldn't make me, but like,
right.
I would be enraged. I would flip into this other person that I didn't want to be because
Hmm.
of like who I was with, who I was sparring with. I just couldn't just love on her, just like for various
Well,
reasons. But
I
it
just
was
want to
my,
touch on that a little bit because I think that's what I was saying before when I was like, hey, there are these aspects of myself that I didn't love.
mm,
And that's an example. Anger is not a emotion that I connect with very often, that I associate myself with very often, but it's a part of me.
mm,
It's there.
mm-hmm,
And if I tell myself that's not me,
mm,
and I don't love that part of myself because it's coming up to protect.
mm, mm.
That angry part of Polly is coming up to protect little baby Polly that didn't have
Yeah,
someone to do that for her,
yeah.
that is angry that she had to take the bus on her own, that
Mm-hmm,
wants to protect you.
mm-hmm,
And that is a powerful part of you. It's not
mm-hmm,
a part to say, "Oh, that's not me," and I don't
mm,
I don't believe or love that that's who I am. It's an incredibly strong part of you that adapted in a way that you're like, okay,
mm,
maybe I don't need to react that way anymore.
mm-hmm. What I'm hearing, what you're saying is like, um, I probably like if I pulled it back a couple of layers, is I'm actually angry at myself for being um, like steamrolled or guilt tripped or whatever. It's like stand up for yourself is sort
Mhm.
of what I'm hearing is like I wouldn't put in boundaries or I wouldn't say no or I would say yes when I meant no and things like that. And I was more angry at myself too, It's like wait a minute, like I'm angry because you're not doing this or whatever, but really it's probably like I'm not standing up for myself too. Yeah.
There's definitely some of that. I think for me it was finding that unconditional love for myself no matter how I reacted.
Mm, mm.
It's
Yeah.
okay. It's
Yeah.
okay if I get defensive. It's okay if I was mean to my mom. She
Yeah.
came over, she dropped something off. I was a bitch to her, okay? It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
I am allowed to
Yeah.
respond in a way that I needed to in the moment, and I'm going to
Mm,
trust that my body
mm,
knows what it's doing,
mm, mm,
and I can still love myself. I can say, "Hey, hey, maybe next time we try something different." But if I can still say, "You know what, girl, you did your best and I love you and it's
yeah,
okay,"
I love it.
that shift made me able to show up so much differently
Mm.
in all of my relationships, but really for myself. Because
Mhm.
for sure, the guilt wasn't the same as your mom's, in that my mom didn't tell me, oh, why, you know,
Why
you're
haven't you
making
called
me
me in
feel
two
so
days? Yeah.
bad. Right. Why didn't you call me? No, but I would feel terrible because she would want to come over and drop something off in the middle of, I'm
Yeah.
doing something. She doesn't ask. She doesn't, she's giving me shit that I don't want, that I now have to figure out what to do with. I feel guilty that I'm going to throw it away. I feel guilty about being mean to her because she's trying to be
Mhm.
nice to me,
Mm.
right? And I just thought, maybe it's okay if I feel all those things. Like that's all right.
Yeah.
And maybe I need to give myself a little slack, like,
Mm.
because clearly I'm,
Like
doing my
it's,
best.
yeah, it's there.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of shit there. We got to just let it happen.
Yeah.
We got to let it come out.
Totally.
And what are some small ways that I can, it's not about adapting, but for me, it was more about what are some small ways that I can show up better for myself
Mm. Mm.
with my mom, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is a small thing? It doesn't have to be a big thing. I don't have to create some big boundary and some new way of like we always want to try to create like some.
Yeah.
I would find myself trying to come up with these complex systems like, okay, well, if I like schedule in an hour of mom time and I like really, and it's like life doesn't do that.
Yeah. It's not that.
Especially not when you have a complex mom. She is not going to slot into your schedule.
Yeah.
That ain't going to happen.
Well,
So,
that was some of what you were doing towards the end. So let's hit upon like how did you towards maybe towards the end we'll just call it because we were learning for many years, but you were getting it. Like you were having boundaries, you were managing your well-being, you were taking care of yourself, you were giving yourself more respect and like you said, and honoring how you were feeling and stuff like that. What were some
mhm.
of the things that you started to do differently that, you learned through all of this? Like what are some of the things that worked?
um, I decided that I was like, I'm gonna work with her.
Mm, mm,
How can I make this work for me? She's
mm,
gonna do what she's gonna do. How can I make that w work for me?
yeah.
Not like how can I adapt to make her happy, but how can I
Mm,
channel whatever it is that she wants to do, or however she wants to show up, or
mm,
whatever she wants to do in her life? How can I align with that? Now, that's not always possible, right? You're caregiving for her. I had to take her to her doctor's appointments. I had to do all of those things. But even still, the doctor calls and is like, oh, your mom's got an infection on her toe. She needs to come in and see this podiatrist and this specialist, and you got to do this and that and the other thing. And, we can, we can get her in tomorrow at this time, or it's going to be a month from now. And tomorrow at this time, right? This is just tomorrow
exactly.
at this time. I have a very important meeting and I'm already drained. I'm going to go, you know what? We're going to go a month from now.
Mm,
Because mom's infected toe, even though I feel bad, guess what? It's probably been infected for months.
yeah. Yeah.
She's going to be okay. Right. And that was the difference of going like, okay, how I have to care for myself first.
Mm,
So what, where is it going to give?
mm, mm.
And the give would be mom's getting her toe looked at in a month,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Or it would be mom always wanted to go to the store every day and get me something. Like, okay, well, I would pick a specific thing.
Yeah.
And this was the thing that I wanted.
Directed.
And I
Yeah.
would be very clear though, because if I said to get X, she could get anything like adjacent to X, right? It wasn't always going to get exactly X, right? If I said I wanted peanut butter, I might get cashew butter.
Mm.
I might get something that's in the realm, but it's not even close.
Might be on the shelf or
If that's going to piss you off,
Mm,
and you know that she's going to get you don't pretend that she's going to know, oh, I need to tell her again that it's exactly this peanut butter. Don't do that.
yeah.
Don't
Take
set
care of
yourself up
yourself.
for failure.
Yeah.
Know that she's going to extend to whatever space she's going to extend to and go like, how can I make that work for me? how could it be a surprise if I'm like,
Yeah.
is there an item that this is just one example, but I think it's a
Yeah.
good one because, it hits diet and all of these different things. Because it would piss you off to get something that you're like, I clearly don't eat that. My mom should know that I don't, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
Or however it's going to trigger you. But I would say, okay, what is a thing or a category of things that if she got me anything, even in the realm, I would be like, this is a fun surprise and it would be cool.
Totally.
I would pick
Oh,
that thing.
yeah. Okay.
And that's the example of going like, all right, this is going to happen anyway. You are not going to
Yeah.
tame the tornado.
Yeah, and I love it's like shifting something in you that, you know, it's not expecting that person to change and then you feel better. It's like, I want to feel better, so I'm going to shift something. I'm going to shift
Right.
how I, like, shift how I approach this, shift, like, nope, we're not going to do it now, make it work for you, like take care of
Yeah.
your needs as well, like both and, right? So,
And I want to preface that with I made a decision that I wanted to care for my mom. I wanted to have a relationship with her. I made that conscious choice.
yeah.
Sometimes we're in between a rock and a hard place, and both options sucked, right? It was like either I have to reprioritize my life so I can prioritize mom, or I get to live with the guilt of not doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right? Like sometimes our options suck. But I think I made the conscious choice to go, okay, I'm making this choice.
Yeah.
And that really did help me to go, you know what? Like I chose this.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I wanted.
Mm.
My siblings didn't choose to do it, and I understand why. Like I said, my mom was pretty horrible to us growing up. So
Yeah.
we, had all the reason to maybe not show up for her because she didn't necessarily show up for us the way that we wanted. She tried. Don't
Mm-hmm.
get me wrong. It wasn't like there
Mm-hmm.
was lack of effort, but um, knowing that I wanted to do that, knowing that I wanted to have her in my life,
Mm-hmm.
I tried to find ways that would make it positive for me.
Mm, mm. I love it. I love it.
Not for
Um,
her, really. I mean, it so happened that it worked that way,
yeah.
but I think so many of us think like, oh, okay, well then I'm just going to tell mom to be this way so that it works for me. And that's
Mm,
not, mom is gonna be mom.
yeah. Yeah. And I love it. You're just like, I started working with who she is and like that she's just going to be that way and stop like thinking that. And
No,
that's the
I
same
have
in
no control.
intimate relationships as well. It's like, okay, if
Yeah,
you want that intimate partner, it was like, oh, if he would just stand on his head a little bit more and do these other things
right.
and whatever. It's like,
Yeah, if you're like, or if I bend over backwards and I contort myself, and you're like, don't,
no.
no,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't
So,
do
so
that.
all right. So, what else towards the end were you doing that like gave you peace or
Hmm.
or because I know you were, health was, she's struggling, she's got health challenges. You've discovered some health challenges along that same path. You guys were kind of in a parallel. You're nourishing your own health. How did you keep your nervous system okay? Or take, one of them's like, yep, we're not doing it now because you like some little boundaries, it sounds like. Were there
Yeah,
any I think at one point I asked you, and it was like, I remember you saying the advice, one of the piece of advice you gave me was like, you don't have to answer her messages right away, or like
yeah.
whenever you want. Like that was like freaking breathtaking for me. I was like,
Oh,
okay.
that's huge. It is a huge thing. So, as somebody that grew up, so you talked about how did we adapt
Mm,
growing up with moms like this.
mm,
So, I think a lot of the ways that we adapt when we're kids, at least is a common way. A lot of people have different, every body is different, but we become hypervigilant, anxious.
yeah.
We are always on alert.
Mm,
Something bad is going to happen. And some of the coping mechanisms with that is to like when problem arises, solve it right away because the
mm,
unknown is so scary and painful.
yeah. Yeah.
And what that can manifest into is people pleasing and or just being very responsible and available because
Yeah.
it feels safer because
Yeah.
we're in control. We like the control. So
Yeah.
at least this is for me. And so with my mom, if she would text me or call me, the implication was it felt safer to just respond to it in the moment because then I'm taking care of it. I'm making it,
Mm,
I'm fixing it. I
mm,
know what it is. I've got it
mm,
under control.
mm, mm.
What I realized though is that I was doing two things. One, I was teaching her that I was always
Enabling.
available
Yeah.
to solve any problem. And I also was not letting her figure it out on her own. So I think that this is good advice in it, really in any scenario at work and any people that we work with is to just give a little space,
Mm,
have a little pause.
mhm.
If mom would text or call me, I would wait. She leaves a voicemail, I'd listen to it. 9 times out of 10, it would be some, oh my God, the world is ending and my computer won't turn on and oh my God. And the F-bombs would be flying. She'd be freaking out. She'd be like, you need to call me back right now. I can't. And it's just, okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I
so
would
glad
wait.
you, yeah, I'm so glad you
Oh, I
told.
have the voicemails. I can play them. I saved them. I can play them for you. They are like,
Mhm.
what the fuck with this fucking thing? And okay. All right. So you just let it happen.
Yeah.
You wait at least an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then reach back out. Whether you want to reach out by text or however available you want to be. But my thing would be like, I'd wait a little bit. 9 times out of 10, she'd be like, oh, it's fine. The problem went away, right? Or she would find somebody else. That's why I moved her
Yeah.
into senior living where she had people that were there. That's why I moved her so that she would have those people that
Yeah.
would support her, right? And
Brilliant.
deal with her problems.
Brilliant,
That's what they
dude.
get paid to do.
Absolutely.
Let the professionals do their jobs.
The catastrophizing that I get, and I'm just like, it's not that big a deal, like, and like you said, and like, and I don't know about you, but it feels like, and it's very, it's that emotional immaturity. It's just like a child. Like if a child, doesn't get its way or doesn't want to put its shoes on to go to school, like, bah, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay, that's what we're witnessing in a 70, 80-year-old
right.
woman instead of a 3 or 4-year-old little girl. It's like it's just the same person, just older, and it's hard to
It's
go, right?
Yeah, it's emotional dysregulation.
Yeah.
I think what we're witnessing in those moments is we are witnessing their inner child that never regulated.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to remember, imagine that that's the person that's trying to care for a child that was trying to
Mm,
care for us.
yeah.
And if they can't regulate for themselves, if they can't show up for themselves, how are they supposed to do that for us? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that was a huge aha for me was recognizing that my mom really did her best. That was the best that she could do. Like truly and genuinely, that
Mm,
was the best that she could show up for me and for my
yeah.
siblings and for everyone around her.
Yeah.
And so when I would see those outbursts, I would over time it shifted to empathy because I was
Mm,
like, wow, that's got to be really hard to live like
mm,
that.
mm.
I don't think people choose that.
Right. Right.
I don't
Was there?
think maybe some people do, but in my case, I don't think so. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not sad or that we didn't wish that they could have been somebody else.
Yeah.
There's a lot of grief there.
Dude, that and there's a whole another episode that on like unpacking like the expectations, both of them and of us, like you were pointing out for me, like my expectations of being this like infallible person who never gets angry or something like that.
Right.
It's like,
It's supposed
no,
to be Mother Teresa at all times,
like it's okay to get angry, but I label it as like this is somebody I'm supposed to care about. Why am I so angry at this person?
right.
But just recognizing like, okay, that's what happened, right? And
Yeah.
were there places where you had trouble instilling boundaries with her? And maybe give me an example. Like, what was one? Like, that sounds like a little silent one. Like, you didn't tell her like, oh, hey, mom, when you have these freak out moments, I'm just not going to call you for an hour back, right? But you
Oh,
do
right,
it.
right, right. Yeah, did I try? So there were a few things. I mean, like I said, as she got a bit older, um, and maybe the dementia was taking place, like she was a lot easier to work with. what were some boundaries that I put into place? Um,
Did
well,
you?
one thing, so there was a turning point and with her, and she would have these tantrums, right?
Mm.
She would go non-linear, as she would say. That was her phrase. And and typically what I would do is I would just uh flee,
Mm.
right? So we've got like fight or flight. I would flee. I would like, okay, let's just gonna let her do her thing. I'm gonna give her her space. And at one point I thought, and that's the only two interactions I ever saw with when my mom would have these episodes. My entire life, it was either flee, which is what
Mm.
my dad would do, or
Mm.
fight, which is what my siblings would do with her.
Mm.
But there's another option. And I was like, hmm, okay, let's try something different. Like, and one of the things that she would do, she would be in one of, sorry, it's loud downstairs. She'd be one of these episodes, is that she would uh, yell at herself and she would say how stupid she is.
Mm.
And she was so mad at herself, right? Because it would clearly it came from a place of not liking herself and she wasn't happy about it. So at one point, when she was doing that, I said, I I made her look me like I put my face in front of her face and I said, "You're not allowed to call yourself stupid in front of me."
Mm.
Because I said, if you're stupid, then I'm half stupid. I said, Mom, stop calling yourself stupid. You're not allowed to do that in front of me.
Mm.
And she like her whole world changed, like her whole demeanor changed. And I was like, you're not stupid. Don't talk to yourself like that.
Mm. She's never heard that
And
before. Yeah.
I don't know that anybody had done it.
Yeah.
And she like actually settled down.
Mm.
And it was this shift that I saw
Yeah.
in her. And it was since that moment, and I continued to do it. I was like, you're not allowed to talk about yourself that way in front of
Mm.
me.
Mm.
I just wouldn't, that was a boundary that I set. I was like, you
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear you
Wow.
talking about yourself that way. So
Mm.
that was one. I mean, I would create different things. She used to love to just show up out of the blue. I told her that she has to set a time with me before she just shows up. Towards the end, I mean, I just let her show up whenever she wanted. I mean, it drifted. And that's the thing with boundaries. You can decide, you can put them up and you can take them away. And I decided to take it away because I was like, at any day could be the last day. So if she wants to show up,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna make space in my life for that.
Yeah. For sure.
Um,
For sure. Mm.
I did. I set a few things, but I think more than anything with her, it was me adapting, you know.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, you've got this, like you said, I think one of my favorite parts of what you said is like however you said it, was like she was good being the prime actor in the movie. She was good playing the prime actor in her movie and largely other people's movies. Sometimes the subordinate, but largely prime. And
Oh yeah,
I can relate to that a
she's
lot.
full main character.
Main character. There you go. Right. And then just
Yeah,
go, that's mom. Like she's just gonna be on stage when she's in the room. And like I'll take her
yeah,
mine out to, restaurants and stuff. And it's like the main actor has just arrived. Did you guys notice?
right.
Like, okay, in
Yeah,
case whatever the set was going on and anybody else's acting movie. Nope. We just
doesn't
had
matter.
yeah.
She is Celine Dion, and that you know what? Like Celine is in the building, and we got to just. I I mean, I think that we wouldn't imagine that Celine Dion would
So,
not show up that way. So why do we expect that our moms are going to show up differently?
you know what? And we are okay with Celine, and then she has handlers and people that help her get to the front of the line and stuff. And then our moms, like my mom, has literally I've seen her like cut in line, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
But
Oh, for sure. She just like but she is all up in it. And yeah,
yeah,
sometimes though, when you can remove yourself from it for a second, you can recognize that you're like, this is kind of impressive.
yeah, Yeah,
Like this woman is taking up some space.
exactly, the self-assuredness, agency, yeah, this is not the world revolves around me, but I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Well, and
Um,
it can show up in us, like when we do act out the way that they do, right? Whether it's in anger
mm,
or taking up a lot of space or ruffling people's feathers around us or cutting in the proverbial line because we think that our needs matter,
mm,
it can make us feel like, oh, I don't want to be like my mom.
mm,
That's where that feeling, what I was saying earlier, of these things that I didn't like about myself that come from her, I
mm,
think those are good examples.
mm.
But maybe instead we go, well, those can be good things. Why is it all wrapped up in,
Yeah, you're
can
right.
we pick and choose? Can we create our own?
I like it. I like revisiting that, revisiting it. So Ness, like around a lot of this, when I think of like the work of Brene Brown and shoulding on ourselves, right, and like falling into the should trap and the guilt, the shame and the guilt of like, I should be close to my mom. I should enjoy spending time with her. I should want more of a relationship, right? Like, what? How did you reframe that? How did you evolve? Like, how did that change from like, oh, this guilt of like, I should want to get close to her, but not wanting to, or something? What were
Hmm.
some of the things that you did, or one thing that you did?
Well, yeah, and I definitely can relate to that. I mean, there's so much of it. I think what I did that was helpful was not trying to think of it all at once and the full relationship. I think sometimes we can get so grandiose
Mm,
and try to, at least for me, try to come up with, well, this is the answer, or this is the way that I'm going to show up that's going to solve it all.
mm,
Um, I just, and it sounds cliche, but really just thinking about one day at a time
mm,
and what way would feel good showing up today with my mom.
mm. It's like be in the present and do your best right now. Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
just today.
hmm
And maybe today that means like I can't with her.
yeah.
Maybe today that means I'm mad at her and I don't want to see her. I don't want to talk to her.
hmm
That's okay. Let's do that. And then tomorrow we can check in again.
mm,
And what I found for myself was that it did change day to
mm,
day.
mm.
And some days it was like I very much wanted to see her and spend time with her. And then sometimes I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah. I love that because it's like, it's okay. And I know this seems like at 54 I'm saying this, but it's like it gives yourself permission to say, no, I don't want to hang out with you. Like, no, I don't want to see you, talk to you, solve your problem, hear about your bullshit, whatever. Like, nope, I just, and that reminds me of like, there's like we abandon ourselves to go be with that person, right? Like oh, their needs are more important than ours. And it's like when I say, you know, yes, I'll see you even when I don't want to, or I'll pick up the phone like, ah, she's called 6 times, that kind of a thing. It's like,
Mhm.
no, like somebody else called me, I'd be like, nope, not talking to you, right? So I would
Right,
abandon myself and go be like, oh, what do you need, and how can I care for you and stuff. And so it's like,
for
no,
sure.
yeah,
And especially when we do that over and over again, I think, yeah, we're betraying our own trust.
mm, mm,
And I think the reason for me, at least, when I would answer that call or when I would abandon myself for her, the reason why is because I felt like, well, I don't want to be that person, or I don't, that's not the relationship that I want to have with her.
yeah,
But that's what I'm saying about just take it one day at a time.
mm,
Because a relationship isn't all one thing or all, it's not like that. It changes.
mm.
And so I think that the one day at a time helped me to maintain both.
Yeah.
Some days you can have a really nice time with her.
Mhm,
And other
mhm.
days
It's
you just
like, who is
you
this
don't.
person?
Yeah, and that one day can go on for a long time and then it can change again. So it allowed for flexibility in the
Yeah.
relationship.
I think the last thing I'll just say and we'll wrap up is like, it's surprising how upsetting it was for me, us, or I'll say speak it from my first person, is like like whatever the experience, like we'd have this interaction and it wouldn't go well. And that person would, she'd be like not very phased for very long, right? You know, like we would hold on to way more for way longer than they do. It's like, how, but it's maybe that emotional immaturity. It's like, next, you know, playtime or off to the next thing or, oh, go worry about this now or whatever. So, you know what, just let it go too. We just gotta
Yeah,
let that shit go. So,
for
oh,
sure. Yeah, they're
oh.
not holding on to it.
I know. And we're like, why do I keep, I don't want to talk to you because of yesterday. And they're like, what?
What happened yesterday?
I know. I was okay. I came to your house. What? You know?
Yeah.
Totally. Mm. All right. What's a one thingness that anything that you've shared or haven't shared yet that you think about that somebody who's, you know, an adult woman or man who's got a mom that doesn't win the Betty Crocker of the Year Best Mom Award, what's one thing that like really helped you in how to navigate this? Something that you might want to leave them with?
Hmm. I would say, so if I were talking to someone who had a complex relationship with their mom, she wasn't the way that they wished that she would be, I would say that sucks
Mm.
and it hurts.
Yeah.
And is there something amazing about you that you got from her?
Mm. Mm.
Because the non-Betty Crockers of the world also have a lot to give.
Mm.
They've also got a lot of unique aspects that we can write off as eccentricities or faults.
So true.
But I'm sure if you dig deep enough, there is something that is a part of yourself that you're proud of that came from them
Mm.
or that you learned from them.
Mm. Thank you. So I feel like you're speaking to me, not just everyone, but to me too. So I'll take
Mm.
that. And I can't wait to re-listen to this to hear all of your wisdom. And
Oh,
yeah,
all our both of our wisdom. There's a lot in
mm,
here.
there's a lot here. That's really sweet. So thank you, my dear, for being on with us. And how can people find you? Tell us what I think we said it in the beginning, but just make sure that we let people know where to find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Planet Gale. So that's Planet Gale, Gayle, or Nisse Noble on social media, Nisse, or at my new company, Third Nature.
Third nature. Awesome. Well, I have a feeling there's more coming, so this might be a to be continued. That would be lovely to have more time to unpack more with you. So, thank you for being our guest today and for sharing all of this. And I hope that, you know, if you're listening to this, that you either heard something in Nissa's story or in my story, whether your mom is still alive or she's passed, or something in here has touched something about, you know, like it's okay, like you telling me some things that were okay with how I was reacting and how I was being. I hope in this you felt some camaraderie and some seeness, because that was really my goal and our goal with sharing this. So thank you for being a part of this conversation with us. And remember, my beautiful people and Team Awesome out there, how your life feels is more important than how it looks. And every day is your opportunity to find your awesome.